2 months ago, at my own wedding reception under the Texas Hill country stars, my father stood up, took the microphone, looked straight at me in my wedding dress, and announced to 300 guests, "She's a gold digger, just like her mother." The words landed like a slap. Glasses froze halfway to their mouths. My mother's hands trembled so violently her champagne flute nearly shattered on the table. My grandmother gripped the linen cloth until her knuckles turned bone white. My brand new husband Ryan stood rigid beside the cake, eyes wide, fork suspended in midair. The string quartet stopped playing mid-note. 300 faces turned toward me, waiting for the bride to burst into tears or run. I did neither. I smiled, small, calm, terrifyingly calm, stood up in my ivory lace gown, walked 17 deliberate steps to the DJ booth, pulled my phone from the hidden pocket I'd had sewn into the dress specifically for this moment, plugged it in, and pressed play on a 3-minute 12-second recording I had carried like a loaded gun for 11 months. What exploded through every speaker in that garden wasn't music. It was my father's own voice, confessing to fraud, theft, and betrayal in words so casual and cruel they made the entire room gasp. His face drained of color in real time. And that was only the beginning of the night. He lost everything he thought he controlled. But before I pull you any deeper into the 14 years of lies, gaslighting, and one spectacular public reckoning, let me ask you something straight from the heart. If a parent ever humiliated you in front of people who were supposed to celebrate you, if someone who should have protected you instead tried to tear you down at your happiest moment, hit that like button right now so I know I'm not alone. Before I go any further, thank you for being here. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe if you like such raw stories, and comment below. Do you believe in karma's payback? Now, let me take you back 14 years to the night the real story actually began. I was 14, living in our big house off Lake Travis in Austin. The kind of place with a backyard big enough for a trampoline and a treehouse, where the neighbors knew your name and waved when you rode your bike past. My mom, Susan, was a nurse at Del Seaton, working nights so she could be home during the day for me. My dad, he ran a small real estate firm, drove a shiny truck, and loved telling people at church how he provided for his girls. That Tuesday night, Mom came into my room at 9:30, still in her scrubs, eyes red, but voice steady. "Pack what you can carry, baby. We're leaving. Tonight." No explanation. No suitcase for her, just me, my backpack, my school books, and the charger for my flip phone. I didn't even think to grab the family photos from the hallway. I figured we'd be back. Dad was at the top of the stairs when we walked out, arms crossed, face like stone. He looked at Mom, then at me, and said the 5 words that still wake me up some nights. "Take the ungrateful one with you." Ungrateful? I was the kid who made straight A's, who cleaned the kitchen every Sunday without being asked, who hugged him every night even when he smelled like whiskey and secrets. But I was standing next to Mom, so in his world, that made me the enemy. We drove through the night in her old Civic, ending up in a 1-bedroom apartment in East Austin where the walls were paper thin and the carpet smelled like old cigarettes. I slept on the pull-out couch. Mom took the floor so I'd have the better spot. She worked doubles at the hospital. Came home at dawn, made me toast, checked my homework, then crashed. Meanwhile, Dad stayed in that big house on the lake, the one his mother, my grandma Eleanor, had left him, the one that should have been half Mom's after 20 years of marriage. Within a week, he'd called every relative, every church friend, every golf buddy. His story? Susan left me for someone else. She's been lying for years. It was a lie so clean, so convincing, that even people who'd known Mom for decades bought it. The church ladies brought him casseroles. The pastor prayed for the wounded. Husband, nobody called to ask me what really happened. I was 14 and already invisible. For 6 months, he didn't call me once. When I finally worked up the courage to dial his number, he picked up on the 3rd ring and said, flat as day, "If you're calling for money, You're just like her. I hung up and cried into the couch cushion so Mom wouldn't hear. But here's the part that still makes my blood boil when I think about it. 11 months before my wedding, Mom and I were helping her move from that tiny apartment to an even tinier one because rent in Austin had gone completely insane. We were digging through the hall closet when I found an old shoebox. Inside, receipts, a few photos, and a USB drive with a strip of tape that said, "In Mom's handwriting, you should hear this." I plugged it into my laptop right there on the kitchen floor. One audio file. 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Dad's voice filled the room, slurred. Late at night, the way it got after a few beers, he was leaving a voicemail for his girlfriend, Vanessa, the woman he'd been seeing for months. "Hey babe, it's me. Susan's lawyer is useless. I moved the lake house into the LLC last month. She'll never find out. By the time the judge signs off, it's done. And Ava, don't worry about her. She's an ungrateful brat. She chose Susan, fine, she gets nothing. Just like her mother." He kept going. Casual, almost cheerful, talking about how the house appraised at $680,000 would be theirs once the divorce was final. How Mom would never see a dime. I was just like her. I sat there on that linoleum floor and played it again and again. The third time I wasn't listening to the words anymore. I was listening to the man who used to carry me on his shoulders at the county fair. He wasn't there. Mom stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "Vanessa sent it to me after they broke up," she whispered. "I kept it because I was scared to use it and scared to throw it away." I didn't scream. I didn't call Dad. I just saved that file in 3 different places, bagged it up to the cloud, and made a promise to myself I wouldn't use it unless he forced my hand. He forced my hand. 6 months before the wedding, he started the campaign. He told my aunts I was marrying Ryan for his money. He told the pastor in our old church that I was following in my mother's footsteps. He even called Ryan's mom my future mother-in-law and suggested a prenup because you never know with girls like Ava. 2 weeks before the big day, he called me while I was grading papers at my little kitchen table. I was teaching 10th grade English at a public high school in Round Rock, $47,000 a year health insurance that barely covered my anxiety meds, and a Honda with 180,000 miles that I prayed would last 1 more year. "I'm giving the father of the bride toast," he said. "No, hello, it's tradition." I tried to talk him out of it, begged, offered to let his brother do it instead. He laughed that low, mean laugh and said, "You don't get to silence me, Ava. Not after everything I've done for you." That night, I made the choice. I called my best friend, who's a paralegal, and asked her to draft the papers. I gave the spare USB to Ryan. I practiced walking from our sweetheart table to the DJ booth 17 steps, exactly, in my wedding heels so I wouldn't trip when the moment came. The morning of the wedding was perfect. Blue skies, live oaks dripping with Spanish moss, the venue smelling like wildflowers and fresh-cut grass. I stood in the bridal suite, looking at myself in the mirror and thought, asterisk, this is the last time I let him make me feel small. Asterisk. The ceremony was beautiful. Ryan cried during the vows. Mom squeezed my hand so tight when she handed me off that I knew she was holding 14 years of pain in that grip. Then came the reception. Drinks, dinner, toasts that had everyone laughing. And then the MC said the words I'd been dreading. And now, the father of the bride would like to say a few words. Dad stood up, adjusted his tie, smiled that church smile that fooled everyone for years and began. He started sweet. Talked about how I used to follow him around the backyard when I was little. How I was always such a good girl. Then the knife came out. But after the divorce, she chose her mother. And now she's marrying a lawyer. Well, let's just say I had questions. The room got quiet. Then he looked straight at me and said it. She's a gold digger, just like her mother. 300 people inhaled at the same time. Yeah. I stood up. I didn't say a word. I just started walking. 17 steps. Past table 4. Past the dessert station. Past the string quartet that had gone completely silent. My train whispered across the wooden floor like it was holding its breath, too. Dad kept talking behind me. See? She's walking away. That's what they do when the truth comes out. I reached the DJ booth. Marcus, bless his heart, already had the cable ready. I plugged in my phone, turned to face the room, and pressed play. Dad's voice, slightly slurred, late at night. The voice I used to hear reading me bedtime stories filled the entire venue. Hey babe, it's me. Susan's lawyer is useless. I moved the lake house into the LLC last month. She'll never find out. By the time the judge signs off, it's done. And Ava, don't worry about her. She's an ungrateful brat. She chose Susan, fine, she gets nothing. Just like her mother. The recording kept going. He talked about how the house would be his and Vanessa's little love nest. How mom would never see a dime. I was just like her. When it ended, the only sound was the wind in the oaks. Dad's face went the color of old paper. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. My grandma Eleanor, Dad's own mother, stood up. She walked over to Mom, took both her hands and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, I always knew something was wrong. I just didn't have the courage to say it. I'm so sorry, Susan. Then she looked at Dad and said the 6 words that broke him more than any recording ever could. You're no longer my son. He tried to grab the mic back, but Ryan's best friend, Nathan, the family lawyer, stood up from table 6, buttoned his jacket, and walked over with a manila envelope. David Thompson, you've been served. The room exploded, not with anger, with truth. Aunt Caroline started crying. Uncle Ray, who had defended Dad for years, just stared at the floor like he'd never seen it before. The pastor, he looked like someone had punched him in the gut. I could practically hear him thinking, asterisk, this is the man who led Bible study? But the real payoff, the next morning, the papers were filed. 6 weeks later, Dad agreed to pay Mom 35,500 half the value of the house at the time of the divorce, plus damages. He had to sell the lake house, the one he'd lived in for 14 years, the one he'd stolen. He moved into a 1-bedroom in North Austin. Vanessa? Turns out she'd moved to Dallas 3 years ago and changed her number the day after she sent Mom that recording. She wanted out. She just never told him. Mom used part of the money to go back to school and become a nurse practitioner. She's 57 now and making more than she ever dreamed. She bought a little house in Dripping Springs with a screened porch where she and Grandma drink sweet tea and watch the hummingbirds fight over the feeder. And me? I still teach 10th grade. I still pack my lunch in the same Tupperware. I still drive a Honda with 187,000 miles on it. But I sleep through the night now. I don't check my phone in the morning with that familiar knot in my stomach. I don't rehearse conversations with my dad at 2 a.m. The knot is gone. Last Sunday we had dinner at Mama's new house. Pot roast, collard greens, cornbread made from scratch. Ryan burned the rolls on purpose because Grandma loves to fuss at him about it. I looked around that table, Mom laughing so hard she had to wipe her eyes. Grandma telling Ryan he was ruining perfectly good biscuits. My husband squeezing my knee under the table, and I realized something. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who chooses you when the world tries to break you. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself first. So if you're watching this and you have a parent who makes you feel like you're never enough, you don't owe them access to your peace. You don't owe them your silence. You don't owe them one more holiday where you swallow their words just to keep the peace. Boundaries aren't betrayal. They're survival. And sometimes survival looks like walking 17 steps in a wedding dress to press play on the truth. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, if it made you feel seen, if it reminded you of a boundary you need to set or a truth you've been carrying, hello, and tell me in the comments, would you have pressed play or would you have walked away? There's no wrong answer. Both take courage. And if you want another story like this, one that'll make you laugh, cry, and cheer all at the same time, there's one waiting for you in the description. I'll see you there, friend. Until then, take care of your heart. It's the only one you've got.